Hope you're tied on because we're breaking from the starting gate on this Saturday edition of Gulfstream Today. It's great to have you with us here at Gulfstream Park. Track announcer Pete Aiello alongside Jason Blewett on what has turned out to be a surprise rainy Saturday morning.
Not only that surprise, but you're surprised to see me this early. I scratched in, late scratch of Acacia Courtney by the vet this morning, so I'm in, and hopefully we can substitute and do a little good.
Yeah, Ron Nicoletti not on the grounds either. A big shout out to the great Ron Nicoletti, who's up in Ocala today. They are certainly the fans at the OBS simulcast parlor or theater. They're in good company with Ron Nicoletti, and we miss you. We hope Acacia's feeling better. Now let's run down, as we do at this time of the day here on Gulfstream Today, what's on tap, and we'll take a look back to the Friday action here, Twilight Friday, and our first of the summer here in Hallandale Beach. Well, Ron even flexing the guns. He couldn't get it done yesterday in the Beat the Expert 3 winners, getting those beautiful Beat the Expert polos.
Congratulations go out to Don, Lou, and Brian for a job well done. It was a very nice card yesterday, Rainbow Six, fairly formful sequence, but at the same time, there was some value to be had.
Indeed there was, and speaking of the Rainbow Six, drum roll please, because we will have that carryover, and it's a big one coming up in a few moments here on Gulfstream Today. We'll start in race number 1 with a group of maiden claimers on the turf, a dollar rolling super high 5, and that'll coincide at around 12:55 with the opener today. 12 race card, by the way, with the first leg of the early pick 5. Moving on again with that drum roll in the background, the Rainbow Six. How do you like that number, my friend?
I think it'll get close to 700,000. They've been betting about 100,000 a day in it, so you're needing 106 and change to get to 700. I think we'll get there easily. I'm not sure if there's a jackpot winner in the house, but the turf and track conditions do make things a bit more difficult.
Indeed they do. We'll keep our eye on the winner, and of course, or weather I should say, and the winner next to me, Pete Aiello, will keep you up to speed throughout the afternoon here at Gulfstream Park with the weather in South Florida. And don't forget, on this 12-race program, race number 8, a little later than usual, we'll start the 50-cent late pick 5. I'll have tickets in all 3 big multi-race wagers on the afternoon, kicking off in the first, my friend, in which we are good, and we'll throw up my early pick 5, which is starting out with a single, a horse that you loathe. What was the phrase you used before we came on the air?
I don't know that I can repeat it, but needless to say, I'm strongly against the number 9 horse, and here you are flatter. But the good news is I'm not the analyst here this afternoon. I'm simply directing traffic. You, sir, are the analyst, and a very good one, I might add. But you have to justify yourself in picking You Are Flatter, who's 0 for 16 and 2-1 on the morning line with a jockey seeking his first victory of the year. The only thing I can say positive about You Are Flatter is the barn has been going very well lately. 2 wins over the last 2 days.
With Tyler Gaffleone, who, by the way, if you're looking through the Saturday races here at Gulfstream Park, you're wondering where Tyler G is. He'll be riding later on this afternoon for trainer Todd Pletcher up at Penn National, riding a Bronson, who won here and looked pretty good. Kentucky Derby Day at Gulfstream Park. He'll be riding Bronson for the Pletcher barn in the Grade 2 Penn Mile. Getting back to the 9, You Are Flatter, who's a single for me in the opening leg of this Saturday early pick 5. You are dealing with the horse who, if he runs his race 2 back for the maiden 12-5 here on May 4th, I don't think he can lose. He moved, and this is the issue here, and you take the good with the bad. It was a very good effort, one in which the bug rider pulled the trigger way too early, and he was cut down late by a drop-down odds-on favorite for Godolphin in 2nd Street. Not sure what happened last time out, just a complete non-effort, but those were, at least on paper, better horses for the maiden 25.
Yeah, it was definitely a better race. Rangers Coming, who was 3rd in that race, ran pretty well yesterday for 50,000. So there is definitely a drop in class going along here. But if you follow You Are Flatter's racing career, he doesn't have much of a turn of speed, which is good news if you're trying to beat him, because tactically he doesn't have an advantage on you. You just have to outrun him, and we'll try to outrun him with a variety of horses, including the horse on the rail, number 1, Sedella Ocho. We should note here in South Florida, we had some rain overnight, and it is currently raining. Not significant significant rainfall, but the point of the story there is the turf course does have some moisture in it. That's very, very good news for our turf course, and a lot of times what happens there is the speed doesn't carry quite as much. It's not to say you can't win on the lead, but you do have to have your stamina checked at the door to win gate to wire when there's given the ground.
Well, that's a good nugget there, and as far as Cedelo Ocho goes, I think he is the more dangerous of the pair, dropping out of that last out race at Tampa, along with the current favorite at 2-1, the 8 Big Bad Kitty race where the pace fell apart, and he was one of the victims being up close.
$9 play to start the early pick 5 for Jason. I like the structure. I don't like the single, but that's not my prerogative today.
No, it's not.
We'll move now to the second race on the program. 6 furlongs over the main track. Maiden Claimer's in for a $20,000 price tag. Easily and far away the easiest field that Sweet Deal has ever had to face. Jockey Carlos Montalvo, at least in my view, is riding for Dave Fawkes for the first time. If it's not the first time, it's the first time in some time. But you're trying to beat that horse with the outside horse, Tuesday's Rose on the Class hike.
Little slow first time out. She's going to have to run faster here to defeat this field, including the likes of the 2 Sweet Deal, who's clearly a major player. But I like the Tis Wonderfuls, and I'm hoping you get it with the outside post and the 6 Tuesdays Rose after a big price and somewhat, I got to say, surprising good second place finish back in the middle of May in her career debut. Another interesting side note, how about the trainer of the 1 Cotton Tuya on the rail?
Yeah, Jerry Bozzo trying to become the oldest trainer in North American history to win a race, 96 years young. Cotton Tuya not without hope in this race, drops in class with the inside gate. The inside gate, no bargain, but this is an easier field than she's been facing.
No doubt. Big drop in class for her. I will take the outside runner, the bookend, the 6 Tuesdays Rose in race 2.
2, the 1 to beat. Jason trying to beat in race number 2. We'll move now to the third race. The third race, that's 6 furlongs. Same story, different horse. The 2 is the 1 to beat. Number 2, Spurs and Bows, gets a rider switch here to Ramsey Zimmerman, who at least in my view, over the last couple days, has hinted that he's going to ride first call, at least right now, for trainer Angel Rodriguez and Frank Calabrese. Spurs and Bows was beat on the square by Cunavice last time out, who will be running against Open Company later on the program. I think this horse is beatable. So did you. You went for the big horse, the Cat Daddy. He's huge. You just got to get him in the right spot.
I think he's in the right spot today as he drops back in for the $62.50 claiming price. And in the what have you done for me lately department, trainer Ralph Zadie is tops here at Gulfstream Park. Quick little stat we pulled over the last 30 days, exclusively in South Florida at Gulfstream Park. You're dealing with a trainer who's batting above 40% in the win column. And these horses, Pete, that stat shows, they've basically been all or nothing types, as he's only had 1 horse who didn't win that actually hit the board. So there you go, an RI of 278. I'm going to hope the barn continues with that big run, taking our Cat Daddy, as he does have to get around a couple of horses who are close in ability and are rematching off that race here May 20th, a close, essentially a 3-horse blanket finish that included Spurs and Bows and Nutty Boy, a race we're going to look at right now.
Well, Nutty Boy ran really well. I think he's an upset possibility to both of those horses, as he fired big time off the shelf for Antonio Sano. It was a 3-way go, as you touched on, and this particular afternoon, Spurs and Bows in the black cap, 3 off the fence. Nutty Boy is actually widest of all. Cunavice has the lead. Now, Cunavice is going to hold off both the on-rushing Nutty Boy and Spurs and Bows. You can draw your own conclusions from here. I did not see a racetrack bias that particular afternoon. I think Cunavice was just the best horse.
He was the best horse, gave them the slip. I thought Spurs and Bows got a great ride from Miguel Vasquez. I have liked, in the short amount of time that I've been here, what I've seen with Ramsey Zimmerman riding well, and of the 2, Nutty Boy and Spurs and Bows, I prefer Spurs and Bows, but again, I don't think they're getting by our Cat Daddy for Ralph Zadie.
Only thing I can say to put a feather on your cap there is draw a line through the last race. When I said our Cat Daddy is huge, I meant it from the physical sense. He's a big, big racehorse, tight turns over the turf, not what he wants to do.
We'll see what he does. He's on the main track today, and he has won over wet tracks in the past.
Well, let's go to the 4th race now. Race number 4 brings out maidens of the Florida bred variety to race 6 furlongs. This is a tricky contest. You singled here. I don't disagree that number 8, Dance Around, is the best horse in here. Draws outside. Second start for Ralph Nix off of a very nice performance in the career unveiling.
Clearly cut out, Pete, to be a good horse. Paid a lot for this 2-year-old in training purchase by B and Deddy. $100,000 at OBS in March of 16. Solid effort, well backed. little flat there come crunch time in a race as time went on. Did not prove to be a harbinger of really great things to come. That does concern me a bit, and that also adds some intrigue as Dancer, who I think will run well from the outside, catches a field where you have some well-connected horses, pretty much half the field or even more than half the field dominated by second-time starters, and they're all coming out of different last-out races.
Yeah, and the thing about that is, as you said, well-connected, but their form is not well-connected, so it's kind of a rub. They're in good shed rows, and they're spotted to win this race, but you don't have much to go on. I mean, speaking of number 7, Rupp, I don't like the race he comes out of at all. He took money. He didn't run bad, but he didn't run great. How does he stack up against a horse like Dance Around, who's making a 3-year-old debut here today? And you already said the race didn't end up being all that good. At the time, we thought it would because Adagio was knocking on the door, but he had to break his maiden for 12.5.
Yeah, and then 2 steps before the winner has turned out to be kind of just an average racehorse with peace and love. So that's, you know, as far as me picking the 3 successful Roman, that's the main reason I was trying to shake things up. Horse that's been, at least as far as the work tab concerns itself throughout May, looks like he's been training on a farm or at a training center with a purpose here, and this horse, man, oh man, was he bet for Dennis Manning last December here, going off at 6-1 during the championship meet in a 12-horse field.
Dennis Manning, all I'm going to say about Dennis Manning is the statistics do not tell the story. He's much better than his statistics indicate, and when he wins at a price. I do not argue one iota with number 3, Successful Roman. That's race number 4, nice field of maidens on the main track. We move back to the turf course. The turf course, again, is good. The rain looking outside, it's subsided some, so the track is now sloppy, but the turf course remained good. Personally, my personal preference, I like it when there's moisture in the turf course because it removes the bias, and if anything, it gives you a chance, if you are a closer, to get on a surface where you can make ground, which a lot of times is not the case this time of year.
I do feel like we've seen a turf course, though, over the last few cards that has been very fair, and even if you've got the right horse, you get the right trip, you get the right ride. Horses have been able to close things down out in the middle of the racetrack. We'll see if that's a trend that continues. Obviously, we'll both be paying attention at around 12:55 when they spring the latch for the first, and I am looking forward to this 5th race. You know, there's certain conditions, even being admitted and being candid about being new here, a newbie here to the Gulfstream Park racing scene. You've got some hard-hitting, leather-tough, solid turf sprinting mares, and it just seems like every 2.5, 3 weeks, the same crew, and I'm talking about Silver Sachet, Fancy Madeline, and Scuba Sue, they show up in the starting gate against one another.
They sure do, and you really have to figure out who's on the right side of the form cycle when you're looking at those horses. Like for me, Silver Sachet today, nothing away from Panici. I'm vice president of the Panici fan club, but I don't like the rider switch because Gaffleone is far and away the best finishing rider here. Silver Sachet needs that kind of ride. Zayas has rode Silver Sachet plenty in the past, but the agent elects to ride for the Bourgeois barn with Fancy Madeline, who made something that a lot of horses don't do. She fired huge, making her first start in South Florida. Does she bounce off of that, and does Scuba Sue rebound from a less than stellar performance last time?
Yeah, let's show that race most recently. Back on May 13th, I had liked Scuba Sue that afternoon. She did not run well, basically sitting and tracking as the one horse down inside with the black cap. In the meantime, you've got Fancy Madeline, who carved out the pace outside. She spurts to the lead, turning for home here, and again, you can see the athleticism. Boy, oh boy, does he look pretty on a horse, setting one down. Tyler Gaffleone and the number 6, Silver Sachet, just getting up in a nick of time.
Nobody wins on that horse last time out but Tyler and maybe Jesus Rios. Those 2 guys are just so strong physically in the last 1/8 of a mile. Silver Sachet is a 14-time winner. Her earnings approaching $400,000. She's got stakes victories in the past, and she's in very, very good form. Will she take money? I think she will.
She will, and I think for Silver Sachet, last time with Gaffleone at over 8-1 was the time. I want to see what the 5 Fancy Madeline can do, even though she might play out as the speed of the speed, and I just think you get a better effort here, hoping the ride's a little better with less traffic and a little more interest there off the far turn for the number 2, Scuba Sue.
Well, let's turn our attention now to race number 6 on the program. Again, 12 races on the card here this afternoon, so the Rainbow Six will begin in race number 7. Race 6, the usual suspects, as I like to call them, $6,250 claimers at 6 furlongs. Some interesting runners in here. You do have a couple of the usual suspects in Dreaming of Joey and Starship Apollo, but you also have horses stepping up like Cunavice and Where's That Cat making his second start back in South Florida. What do you do with Fish Fan off the claim? A lot of questions to answer in this race.
Yes, and then you combine the fact that you've got 3 or 4 major players on paper who are all starting for new barns off the claim, and it's just a multi-layered 6250 claiming race, and one in which, well, you've got a bulky size field of 8. I like the 6 Starship Apollo, and what won me over in what is such a tightly contested race on paper, and even from what we've seen with the usual suspects, I like that out on the racetrack. This stat won me over for trainer Oscar Gonzalez. I tend to like when horses that run near the bottom or close to the bottom always get claimed. I think word gets around that they're sound, they hit hard, and we'll take a shot here with trainer Oscar Gonzalez, who's 10 for his last 37, straight up first off the claim going back 5 years.
Well, so Oscar Gonzalez is certainly one of the better conditioners in this level of horse in South Florida. And Edgar Zayas gets the call here this afternoon, one of many with a chance. Dreaming of Joey, very disappointing in his last race. We'll see if he can rebound here this afternoon.
No doubt about that. Fish Fan was up close inside, down on the rail, never really had any serious punch. Claimed by trainer Bob DeBono has done a good job here, batting over 20% during the spring-summer meet at Gulfstream Park. A solid 6th race on tap.
Absolutely, and we'll take a brief timeout. When we come back, Jason's Rainbow Six Racing and more Saturday action right after this.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
And we're back now with Gulfstream Park today on a Saturday afternoon in South Florida. A bit of a soggy afternoon, sloppy main track and a good turf course. 40 minutes now to today's first race. We're up to race number 7 on the 12-race program. Track announcer Pete Aiello joined by ace handicapper extraordinaire Jason Blewett. Jason, you have your Rainbow Six ticket here today. This race, the 7th race on turf at 5 furlongs. Very, very tricky sequence, but you're only 2 deep here.
Only 2 deep as we go for the gusto. $593,000, the carryover into Saturday's 12-race Rainbow Six here at Gulfstream Park. I had to trim somewhere, wanted to keep the ticket at around $20, $25, so we'll use the 7 Hostile But Awesome, who's got kind of a wise guy look to him, at least in my mind, with Carlos Montalvo. The 10 Secret Recipe, I like trainer Reed Nagel quite a bit. 4 deep in race number 8, we will single in the 9th race. I think a horse that'll be clearly favored in the 7 King Power, off the drop and trainer change to a former Pletcher assistant and Jonathan Thomas, and then fast forwarding to race number 11. For better or for worse, ExpressJet beat me last time, but I'm on the bandwagon today. He's a single, and hopefully we get live to race number 12. That's the name of the game, isn't it, Pete? And wrap things up with a 4-horse spread in the nightcap.
The good thing about a $19.20 ticket is you're doing the fans a very big service in the sense that they get your opinion, but they don't have to pay too much for it. You can adjust, you can add, you can subtract, and still not break the bank.
Yeah, that's the name of the game as far as I'm concerned. I would not come on the air and give you like an $80 play or something like that, something I wouldn't put in myself. So I'm very, try to be ethical that way.
Well, that's why you're the ace handicapper extraordinaire.
All right, try to be the host with the most too, but you're doing a great job today.
Well, let me ask you a question here. I have one question as it relates to race number 7. I want to know your thoughts on the 6, Dana's Ride. Big rider switch here this afternoon with some trouble in the debut. The shades go on. The horse is coming out of the same race that your 10 horse is. I think there's some value to be had here. You obviously agree. It's your 3rd selection here.
Yeah, 2nd-time starter. Anytime I see Donnerell Court's name in the PPs as a sire or a dam sire, I get happy because I was a fan of his running days back in the barn at Nick Zito so long ago, and picking up Miguel Vasquez at a race like this for 12-5. I think a horse who can obviously improve. Now, as far as trainer Reed Nagel is concerned, again, a barn that I am getting familiar with, but a trainer I've quickly taken a liking to. We got a stat here over the last 5 years, and I like, as a rule of thumb, general stats. And I think this one, although it gets a little specific at the end, it's a fairly general move for the barn. 2nd off the layoff with their turf sprinters, 40%, 4 for 10, and these horses are running well and clearly outperforming their odds. They are definitely overachieving with that big ROI.
Let me ask you another question, and then we'll move to race number 8. When was the last time until today that you picked a 7-year-old maiden on top?
Yeah, I don't know if ever, considering coming from, up north. I don't know if that's ever happened before.
Well, there's a first for everything, and Secret Recipe definitely speed the weapon of choice for Jason Blewett in race number 7 on turf at 5 furlongs. Let's move to the 8th race. We stay on turf. We stay at 5 furlongs. Category is a nice allowance, optional claiming event. A field of 8 signed on in here. Some horses in good form, including Wine List, who's going for 3 in a row for trainer Ron Fauché.
And we've been very impressed with trainer Ron Fauché. When he shipped to New York back in the days I was up there, he'd be a dangerous guy to keep an eye on, and clearly the horses that he has brought to South Florida have made a quick impact, and a number of them have not needed that proverbial first start to get over the hump here in South Florida during the summertime. That was the case last time out with the number 3 Wine List back on May the 13th, and again, much like the crew we talked about with Scuba Sue and Fancy Madeline, you've got horses in here who are very familiar with one another. I don't think there's a lot in the ability department that separates them. Who pulls the right trip today? Back on May 13th, it was Wine List who gutted out the pace outside, led off the far turn, and held off Posse Dreamin', who got a very good ride that day, I thought, from Hill Richer Mafia, a race we're going to look at.
Well, I'm glad we're going to look at it, and I agree with you 100%. The trip's going to be the key here. Last time out, the trip was the best for Wine List. He won it. The second best trip went to Posse Dreamin'. He was second, and then Axtell had to cover ground off the corner and then close good ground to be third. It was a very, very good race, and I think you can draw your own conclusions in the stretch run. Wine List will eventually win this race, but take a look at Axtell, the number 8 in this race, all tucked up with no place to go. Panici's going to find some racetrack late in the game. This horse is going to close good ground. With the given the ground here this afternoon, that might suit Axtell, a horse who rallies from off the speed.
Yeah, it adds an intriguing wrinkle here with the horse and a field, in fact, where most of these runners have time and time again only run over firm ground, be it at Gulfstream Park or out of town somewhere else. Now I'm taking a New York bred in here, the 6 Athon for trainer Steve Caceres. This horse that did some good things, was a tough, consistent 2-time winner throughout 2016, and I thought got something useful out of his return race back on May 5th. A big fan of Steve Caceres, as the Bullets will show on this rainy Saturday morning here in Hallandale Beach. I think there's plenty to like with the number 6 Athon, as this horse is better on the turf. I think he's going to move forward today, second off the bench, off the sloppy track return, and he likes it here at Gulfstream Park. Any thoughts on the 6 Athon?
I can't say anything good or bad because I have made it a rule that I will never argue with someone who's going with a price horse. You're going with a price horse. My hat off to you.
And he's going to have to improve. I mean, he's going to have to step up his game. If he doesn't move forward against the likes of Wine List and Axtell and that crew back from the 13th, he won't win.
Yeah, but he'll also be a good enough price to take that risk, and I tip my hat to you for that. Let's go down to the 9th race. 9th race starts the elite pick 4, 7 furlongs over the main track. King Power's the storyline here. He takes a big plunge. He was in the barn of Chad Brown. He did not run a jump in his debut. The waters get quite a bit shallower here this afternoon. He does look like the horse to beat, but will you be willing to take a short price?
I'll be willing to take a short price in single. This is a race where I'm just not going to go against the tide of beating a horse that I think should be a prohibitive favorite for an operation that clearly Robert LaPenta, one of the more high-profile, deep-pocketed owners in the game. Horses like this, I think in his operation, just put them where they can win. If they get claimed away, so be it. He's supposed to get it done today.
That's exactly what I was just going to ask, so we'll move right along to race number 10. 7, very much the horse to beat in today's 9th race. The 10th race, we're back on the turf. We're back sprinting at 5 furlongs, $10,000 claimers set to go postward in this race. Nice field, big field assembled here. Escapist off the claim from Virat Sankal, looking for 3 in a row. One of those victories on the turf, one of them on the dirt, but he's in very, very good form right now and should trip out pretty well.
Yeah, I think he's going to pull a good trip. He likes it here at Gulfstream Park. There's a whole cornucopia of angles in the grab bag here today with the 11 Escapists. We'll give you a little brief rundown. He's the second and final BB for me on the Saturday card at Gulfstream Park, and I like trying to be, and sometimes it's tough and sometimes you guess wrong, but I like trying to get ahead of the curve with a hot trainer. And Virat Sankal, as you said, had a big Memorial Day weekend here, winning the stake last Sunday. Had a nice win with the 8-year-old Vetalago in the Memorial Day opener, and I like that this horse can make his own racing luck. But he'll need his running shoes on today, and he's going to have to pull a good trip from a tough outside post, and the 10 Little Baker definitely commands a lot of respect.
He does indeed. What about the horse that you didn't use him? You're always on the Claceris bandwagon. Here's another price horse he runs in this race. Number 6, Super See Me. First start since December. That's the bad news. The good news is he likes giving the ground. He should be very well suited to today's footing. I think he has a chance from off the pace, and maybe not to win the race, but he does has a chance to spice up your exotics.
Yeah, maybe a little remiss not having him fourth capping my super, and he might get some speed in here with Contractor Jack on the rail. Maybe he gets some hitting with the 5 All About Diva. And again, horses like the 11 Escapist and the 10 Little Baker aren't slow.
Yeah, well, one final thought from me on this race, and then you're welcome to add anything else. Number 1, Contractor Jack will be in front. That's not the disputable point. The disputable point is this is exactly the type of horse who gets carried along by the turf course when it's dry.
Right.
It's not dry. I expect him to back up, and then the horses will have to go out outside him, inside him. They'll have to get tripped out, as we were talking
Well,
about.
and they're better horses than him as well, so that may very well be in the cards today. A tough little spot there for Contractor Jack in yet another bulky, chunky-sized field on this card.
Well, let's move now to the 11th race. This is a good race, and it deserves some quality airtime on Gulfstream today. 6 furlong allowance optional claiming event for the Florida breds. Nice field, hard-knocking campaigners. You and I were both on the Harry He bandwagon. He couldn't carry us both. I apologize in advance. Quite a bit heavier than you are, so my apologies in advance for getting him caught last time out. Express Jet ran huge last time out. So huge, in fact, that I don't know that I can trust him to fire that shot again. He showed more speed than he has in months last time out. Does he run that race back? And if he does he win?
I think he wins if he runs that back. And the good news with him is he can sit a little further back. If he gets out-footed early, he's the kind of horse that can really make his own racing luck. And we see it time and time again. Some of these older, tough pros, their seasons, their campaigns, they're long, they run quite often. You get that natural ebb and flow where they're not machines. And I think his last, even though it's in 2020 hindsight, and he'll be a much shorter price than the 4-to-1 that you got, but I think his last, looking at it in the positive effort that it was, he has found, per se, the fountain of youth, or maybe he's enjoying a little renaissance. In fact, why don't we go back and look at Express Jet on May 14th, my friend? He's a tough horse, and I'm sure, one, you had fun calling on this day.
Actually, I looked like a fool because he broke to the lead, and I actually made the comment, and the boys in the video room loved it and made a parody video out of it. I said, well, that won't last long. Not from the standpoint that he didn't have a chance, but he rallies from well off the pace. You can see 3 and 4 starts ago, he comes from well behind and rallies to kick on. His best race of his life was from well off the speed back in November at Gulfstream West. Here today, he got a perfect trip. He wanders a little bit. He always does that. Don't worry about that. And Express Jet ran super well. He has been defeated in this race by both Harry He and Bulldozer in the past, but you illustrated it perfectly. You're ebbing and flowing in this division this time of year.
Yeah, and I think you're getting the positive side, so to speak, of Express Jet. Expecting another good one. We loved Harry He last time out. I can't remember who was the big favorite in that race. Oh, Ralph
J.B. Quick.
Yeah, Ralph Zadie had J.B. Quick off a real fast, I think, a 96 buyer, and we weren't fully trusting him. He did not run a step. The problem with the 7 Harry He that day is, I think on May 21st, he caught a track that was carrying. We haven't had many main track biases since I got here over the last 3.5 weeks, but that May 21st track was carrying speed, and I don't like that Harry He couldn't seal the deal. That means to me, the 4 Bulldozer, who I put second, is going to show up with a good effort over a track that we presume is fair, and I think Red Crescent, who was compromised over a speed-friendly track May 12th, he'll be a big price. He's worth a look as well in the 11th.
I'm going to jump on the bandwagon of the 21-time winner Bulldozer as well, based on the strength of 2 things. One, he gets a positive rider switch, not from the standpoint of ability. Vasquez and Ruiz, fine, they're both good riders. Vasquez much stronger in the stretch run, and Bulldozer needs that strong finishing kind of ride. I think that could be an excuse for his last race, on top of the fact that, as you touched on, he was racing against the bias. He's a 3-time winner on the mud. You could run this horse on broken glass, and he would take to the surface just fine. I think he rallies well with a race that does have some sneaky amount of speed in it.
It's a good one, a good crew. Again, still very much learning the horse population, but there's a number of races on today's card. My kind of runners that show up every 2.5, 3 weeks, not like many of the grade 1 horses that give you 3 starts a year.
Indeed, and I love the blue collar horses. My handle on all social media for a long time was Blue Collar Racing Fan. That was that was the way I like to do things. And speaking of that, that's a beautiful segue into today's 12th and final race. We're on the turf, $10,000 claimers at 7.5 furlongs. Some scratches here. Scratch the 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, and 16. The 14, Dioscuri, will go. This is a race that has a lot of questions. I don't know how many answers we can find, but number 4, Gear Jammer, appears to have a lot of upside. He went favored off the layoff last time out. It was his South Florida debut. He adds the blinkers for Jose Pinchin. Have I just removed all of your fun talking points about him?
You have, but I want you to elaborate, because you've been down here for your life, essentially, outside of calling a little bit outside Florida. I think you grew up, what, Tampa? You were Tampa
West
boy?
Palm.
West Palm boy right here, for, a native of Florida. Why is it so tough for shippers, as a rule of thumb, right off the van to get it done this time of year?
Well, it used to be back in the day that the racetrack across town that's now known as Gulfstream Park West, the surface was like quicksand. It's changed quite a bit. Now it's more of a speed favoring oval. But back then, you just were not fit enough a lot of times when you were coming in from tracks like New Jersey, Churchill Downs, and even New York, unless they were coming from Big Sandy, where, that speaks for itself. But that was Florida's version of Big Sandy. You needed to be fit to win. I think the humidity has a major, major role in it as well. When you're going from a cold weather climate with not a lot of humidity to a warm weather climate with a lot of humidity, horses are just like people. They sweat too.
They do, and it takes some time for all of us to get used to things here in South Florida. Beautiful place to live, though, and very happy with my switch down here to Gulfstream Park, and it's been fun working with the crew and the guys behind the scenes in the control room. So Gear Jammer, second off the plane, if you will, second off the van. He's going to get it done here in the nightcap, but a race where if we do happen to get live in the late pick 5 or Rainbow 6, and I hope we do, I want coverage here. You need coverage.
Yeah, you do, because it speaks to the quality of the race that you used a horse like Yono Say in 4th, because any other time he would be the horse to put the spotlight on for trainer Efren Loza Jr. Efren does not start many, but there's a reason for that. He doesn't put them in until they're ready and until they're in a spot where they can win. Zayas gets the call. This horse comes out of a sneaky good race last time out at Tampa. It was against much, much tougher. Career low for him. He is a 3-year-old taking on older horses, and he gives up some seasoning, but he's got one that many that have a chance.
It's a wickedly tough race. We hope you're in a position to pad the bankroll as we come up on race number 12. We'll get you out of here as far as the live racing action shortly before 7 p.m. And you look tan, rested, and ready, my friend, for that opening set of changes.
Yeah, we'll be back in just 1 minute, 25 minutes to first race post time. Good luck today.